2022 regular meeting of the Mill Creek City Council to order. We'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance with Councilmember Cavallari. Do the honors, please. Naomi, roll call, please.
Mayor Holtzclaw,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Vanel,
I'm here and I will be logged back in shortly. Kicked me out.
She's frozen.
Councilmember Cavallari,
Here.
Councilmember Steckler,
Here.
Councilmember Allison,
Here.
Councilmember Duque.
Here.
Okay, that brings us to audience communication. I will start with anyone in the audience who'd like to address the council, and then I'll go online. So if you step to the podium, name and address. Try to keep it to 3 minutes, but I'll
Okay.
give you some leeway.
Okay. Hello. Hello, good evening. My name's Darlene Weber. Many of you may know me. I am the managing librarian at the Mill Creek Library. My work address is 15429 Bothell Everett Highway. My home address is 1913 Oaks Avenue in Everett. And in 3 minutes, I'm going to share two things. One is an update and the other is making an offer. I don't know if you guys get that very often. So our vision at Snow Owl Libraries and the Mill Creek Library is that everyone is connected to the library. And then there was a pandemic. So one of the things that was very fortunate about Snow Owl Libraries is we have a very robust website and we have a lot of customer familiarity with our website ever since we got rid of the card catalog and went to an online catalog. So we were able to quite seamlessly and quickly move online. So we had our story times, our book groups, trivia night, all of that online. Our services are, well, first of all, our mantra was monitor and adapt, monitor and adapt, monitor and adapt like everybody else in the world. So we know that pre-pandemic, people came to the library to use our internet services and to do printing. They do that a lot now still. So Snow Owl Libraries through our foundation bought a lot of laptops and Wi-Fi hotspots and began to check those out. During a pandemic, when people are isolated, they were unable to connect with each other. And so that was a really big success. We also started remote printing. So people could go online, attach their documents, and then within an hour, show up contact-free, just like picking up fajitas, coming to the library, telling us they're there for their order, and picking up their print jobs. So we had a lot of success during that pandemic. We were ready to do so. I had to write this down so I wouldn't be long-winded. So we will continue, as we always have, to connect online. We've done that for a long time. We had contact-free services and we maintain that. Some people still want to use contact-free services and we allow that. We'll just take their items to their car. And then over a year ago, we opened our doors for in-building services again. Just this month, we expanded our open hours. In fall, we will be starting our in-person programming. So some of that programming will remain online while we go back to in-person programming. During the pandemic, Snow Owl Libraries and the Mill Creek Library have been very successful in staying connected with our customers and our community. We've been here, we've been monitoring and adapting, and as we move forward into the fall, a new time, I call it the before time and not the end time, but soon, the next time, we continue with our online services and in person. We will begin our in-person programming in the fall. We'll be bringing back the story times, the book groups, STEM programming, team game night, just to name of the few programs that we do here in the community. As we've done in the past, we are currently looking at places to present in the community. We have partnered with Arena Sports, oddly enough, to do our business pros classes. We have partnered with the Senior Center. We have partnered with many organizations in our service area to provide programming space. So the offer, I said I'd make an offer. Happy to meet with you. I'm happy to give anybody a library tour. If you'd like to meet with somebody higher up the chain of command, I will offer their services. So Lois is our executive director. I know that some of you are in contact with our facilities folks and such. Gather statistics. I was telling Stan about this. you would be amazed by how much the Mill Creek Library statistics increased exponentially during the pandemic. So if you want to know about that, I'm happy to give you statistics. And other than that, I just want to say we're very pleased and proud to serve the Mill Creek community. The outsiding, I know the Mill Creek, city of Mill Creek serves outside of Mill Creek, right? Everybody comes from Snohomish County, unincorporated Snohomish County, unincorporated Everett. We serve all those people too. We're pleased and proud to do that. And I hope you take me up on your offer. Thank you.
Thank you, Darlene. Thank you for the update. Appreciate it. Anyone online like to address the council? Ms. Heidel, name and address. Try to keep it to 3 minutes.
Barb Heidel, 1401 144th Place, Southeast Mill Creek. I'd just like to thank all those involved in putting on a great Mill Creek Festival, the organizers, vendors, all the booths and participants. The weather was perfect, attendance seemed high, and everyone appeared to be very happy. Great job all the way around. Secondly, thank you to whoever stopped the display of the clock when Darlene was speaking, so it wasn't as offensive. Thank you.
Anyone else like to address the council? Okay, there'll be another opportunity at the end of the meeting. Brings us to a presentation tonight. Acting Chief or the City Manager, I'm not sure who's taking the lead on this.
I guess I'll tee it off, Mayor. Thank you. We're here today to present Gabe O with a certificate of appreciation. Gabe has been,
That I'm a little.
Yeah.
I came from outdoor kids party. So I
So-
apologize. I'm under.
So Gabe has been our Chief Examiner for the Civil Service Commission for a little over a year now, and probably about the same length of time I've been here. And so it's been a pleasure working with him. He provided with a great service over and beyond really what he was asked. There's a lot of things going on at the end of last year in terms of policing and our attempt to hire both entry and lateral police officers. And so we wanted to say thank you for his time. And the chief probably will say a few words before I present him with a certificate.
Like the city manager said, and thank you very much, Mayor, Council. The issue with trying to hire someone without a civil service examiner is pretty much a very large issue. It is a required position, right, for our civil service rules. And we realized in the middle of last year, as we were having some of these officers resign and wanting to bring in additional officers, we needed to fulfill that void. And Chief Young at the time came to me and said, do we know anybody that help us in this position? Because not having a human resource manager at the time, who is normally fulfilling the role of civil service examiner, we needed to go out in the community and try and find somebody that would be willing to help us in this position. Came up with a couple names, and Gabe was one of those names that we reached out to, and he definitely volunteered to take on this role and helped us a tremendous amount. Sat through several oral boards in this room, a couple of days up in room 201 in North City Hall. And so his volunteer and all volunteer to the city. So very much appreciated his service, helping the commission, made sure that our testing process was fair, non-biased, and up to standard. So Gabe, we really appreciate the service that you provided to the city. It's pretty much a thankless job, but that's why we're here today, to show that your service is valuable to us and we appreciate it.
Can I take just like 1 second? First of all, I was tricked by Stan. I didn't realize how much work it was going to be. I am absolutely honored to have been able to do this. I'm absolutely just absolutely impressed at where the police department was and is headed toward. So congratulations to interim chief Stan, and then Martin's been amazing to work with. So thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Are we gonna do a photo with all of us?
So you're not doing it by the plexiglass.
Appreciate it. Appreciate you guys.
Glad I held the door for you.
Yeah. Take care.
Okay, looks like we're on to old business. Debbie and Martin, item
Thank
D.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Before I hand it off to our HR manager, I just wanted to say a few things that we spent a lot of time throughout the salary study. You saw the presentation in the last council meeting on the 12th. We're going to present you pretty much something similar in terms of the PowerPoint, but also we added a few revised documents to give you a more in-depth view of how we developed the methodology and reached our conclusions as it pertains to the new salary schedule that's in place in your packets. And you should have a copy of there with you as well, a hard copy. Basically, you know, it's really tough in this industry nowadays to hire employees and attract quality experienced applicants in this industry across all departments. This salary study represents the non-represented employees, and it would also enhance our ability to hold our employees in the long run as well. So with that, I'll hand it over to our HR manager, Debbie Mills.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members. I'm going to share my screen here. Okay, so as some of you weren't there, I'm going to go ahead and just do a little quick recap here of the salary study presentation that I presented at the study session a couple of weeks ago. And so the first thing is why we were looking at this. Our objective was right now there's a current, the labor market's very tight. I'm sure everybody's pretty aware of that. And so we want to make sure that we stay competitive and current with our updated, with the market data that's going on. We want to make sure that we retain our current employees with the experience that we have. And also that we are able to attract the most qualified and experienced applicants that we can find out there. Also, that by doing this, one thing it'll do, it'll help reduce our costs because turnover costs is pretty expensive. It's usually about 1.5 to 2 times the annual salary that every time you have to replace a new employee. So with the methodology, when we started out with this, we wanted to identify who our comparison cities were. So working with Cabot Dow and Associates, we ended up selecting cities within a 30-mile radius of Mill Creek. And we looked in Snohomish County or a few cities that were on the Snohomish-King County border. When I went out to gather the data, I ended up using the 2022 data. So the data that we use is the most current and up to date. The median, we decided to look at the median or the 50th percentile because when you do this, it eliminates both the extremes of the ranges and it places us in the middle. So you eliminate the high and the low of the ranges. And then also by doing this, it'll make Mill Creek competitive in our surrounding labor market. So the comparison cities that we ended up selecting were Arlington, Bothell, Edmonds, Kenmore, Lake Forest Park, Lake Stevens, Glenwood, Monroe, Montlake Terrace, Mukilteo, and Mill Creek. So And then a little bit later, I'll show you some of the data and where we ended up. But the results of the salary study basically showed that we were below the median or the 50th percentile, and that in order to be competitive, we felt that we should be making adjustments. And you will see that some of the adjustments are just slightly above the median so that we can stay competitive. And that also, when we created the salary grid, it used the current municipal code of Mill Creek, which means that we need to have at least a 5% differential between each grade. So the implementation. So how do we do this? So implementing the new salary ranges for the non-represented employees, we will need the council approval for the new salary range or the grade. We asked the finance director to do a financial impact analysis. Can we afford this? And in looking at this, her analysis shows that the additional cost just for this year would be approximately $37,000 or less, and that we would not require any additional budget amendments to complete this amendment. And also in this process, the city manager, if it is approved, would be implementing the employee placement on the new range. And we would be looking to make the changes to the employee ranges and salaries with no retro pay with an effective date of August 16th. So before we get into the questions, this is the salary study. So this will show the cities, and I think it's in your packet, the different cities with the different positions and the matching positions and where the median is and where Mill Creek fell within the ranges and comparing to the median. And so from there, this is a little bit easier to look at. This will show by each non-represented position where the median is, where Mill Creek is currently, and then the proposed minimum salary ranges and the maximum salary range. And then this is the ordinance. And in the ordinance, we would be asking that the salary ranges be implemented for the 21-22 budget, effective the 16th, that we would not request any additional revenues, and that it would take effect after 5 days after the ordinance if it is passed. And then attached with that, what we have here is a chart that shows what the old salary range was, the prior range, and what the new proposed range is with the different steps. And then, oops, wrong one. And with the ordinance, here is our new salary range schedule, what by position for the non-represented staff. And so with this, I'd like to open it up for any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Debbie. Any questions, council? Councilmember Cavallari?
Thanks, Mayor. I don't have a question, but I did want to say thanks that we're handling this sooner rather than later, and we didn't allow another month or two to go by or the summer to run out where we addressed the pay disparities in our hiring. So good job all the way around for everybody jumping on this and making sure it was followed through, because we obviously need people. I think that was glaring at the last, I think it was the last Public Works proposal, and we need people. So attaboy all the way around. Good job. Thank you.
Councilmember Duque?
I just wanted to say thank you to our HR manager, finance director, and our city manager, and to Councilmember Steckler and Mayor Pro Tem Vignal. We met as a finance committee on Monday to review all of this content. And I found that committee meeting was very helpful in being able to ask questions and just kind of understanding for me, it was intriguing to see the difference in titles in the different cities, how some are relevant positions and, how that kind of looks up. So I thought it was just really well done to everyone for presenting this information. And again, ditto to what Councilmember Cavallari said.
Councilmember Steckler.
I just want to echo with a few specifics what other people are saying. Number one, thank you for all of your hard work on this. Debbie, I'm so glad you're here with us and joining us in these endeavors. This is one of the smartest things we've done at the city, and I'm very glad to see it. This right pricing of our salary levels to protect our employees and to ensure that we're taking care of our employees was extremely smart. And when I look at these numbers, you get a little concerned because you're raising everybody's salaries. Oh my gosh, it's a small pittance of an amount of money compared to the costs of going out and recruiting and retaining new people when you lose people. This is actually one of the best investments we could make as a city. So this is a very smart spend. I also want to commend you on the cities you chose and the cities you chose not to include in the survey because they were not reflective. And they really would have just been terrible skews of not having the same types of positions, or they really didn't really help the study at all. So it was I want to make sure that as this is recorded to anyone who is looking at this was a very smart study. We looked at it very carefully at the final numbers. I wholeheartedly support this, and I think this was a very well thought out process. I'm glad to see we're doing it. I had a question, and I think you've answered it as our HR director. What is the best way to do this? Do you do it all at once? Do you do it during a period of time? I think your recommendation saying do it in August, I wholeheartedly support as well. That's the right policy from HR standpoint. So just kudos all the way around. I'm really glad we're doing this, and I hope we see the end result being a decrease in a loss of our key employees. So thank you for getting this done.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to reiterate a few things that everyone else has already said, but in particularly, thank you very much to Martin, Laurel, and to Debbie. As Councilmember Duque mentioned, the Finance Committee met and we did discuss this proposal, and we kind of went through things and we tried to anticipate questions that other council members would have, such as how much was it actually going to affect the budget and things like that. So they went back and compiled those and put that in here for you so that we would have all the data in front of us tonight so that all the questions could be answered. It's extremely important that we tackle this and that we are more competitive because everyone else is hiring people, everyone's raising their rates, and we want to have good key people in place, and we want to keep our good people and not have them go somewhere else. So I'm very excited that we are moving to do this tonight, and I look forward to seeing us get new hires in place and retain the ones that we have that are already valuable. Thank you.
Mayor, do we have an ordinance number?
We do. 880, 2022-880.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to adopt ordinance number 2022-880, modifying the 2021-2022 budget to amend salary ranges in the pay plan for the non-represented classifications.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes 6-0. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you, Martin, for your work on that, and Laurel and everyone who's involved. Okay, Martin, new business, item E. August council meetings.
Yeah, so given that we are not holding August council meetings, we would like to, I'm not sure the proper way to present this, but request a motion to cancel all August council meetings. Grant, is there anything that you'd like to add?
No, that'll work.
Cancel the regular meeting scheduled for August.
Motion to cancel the regular scheduled meetings in August.
Second.
And just to confirm, we're not going to need a special meeting for any consent agenda vouchers or anything.
That's correct, Mayor.
Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes 6-0. That brings us to Mr. Reinhardt, Stormwater Management.
Thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members. Excuse me, I'd like to start by asking, we had some technical difficulties, asking Naomi to make Angela a co-host. So, because she'll be driving the presentation this evening. So I'd like to follow up on the basic stormwater concepts. What we're talking about tonight is the first of a set of code amendments that we will be bringing before council during these next couple months and such after August, in order to make adjustments to our city code where we need to in order to remain in compliance with our stormwater permit. In particular tonight, in the leg of the permit that talks about development and redevelopment standards in the city. We have been using the 2012 or the 2014 revision of the 2012 Department of Ecology manual for a few years now. The stormwater program does require us to adopt updated standards. And with that, Angela, could you share your screen, please? And go ahead. What we'll do is I will pass the baton to Angela. I'm going to have her go ahead and give the presentation, and then we will both be available to you for questions after the presentation. We are bringing a ordinance this evening for your consideration to adopt a updated stormwater manual, but I'll let Angela take that away. You're going to want to unmute yourself, Angela.
Good evening. I'm sure that you can all tell this is the first time I have done this. So tonight we are going to be coming to you with a request to adopt a new stormwater management manual, the most current and up-to-date version. So to quickly give you an idea of what we're going to be, or what I'm going to be presenting to you this evening. First, we're going to talk about the regulatory permit requirement.
Angela, could you share your screen, please?
Oh, sorry. Why do I not see?
Angela, this is Joe. If you just hover your mouse down near the bottom of the screen, a menu pops up.
There it is. Sorry. Can you see it now?
It's coming up.
Yes, it's loading.
There you go. Go ahead.
Okay. So what we're going to be talking about is within the regulatory permit requirement, the stormwater permit. There are proposed amendments to the Mill Creek Municipal Code that respond to a special condition of the permit. And when I say the permit, I'm referring to the city's Western Washington Phase 2 municipal stormwater permit. So our permit requires periodic amendments to the code, municipal code, in order to keep the city in compliance. And specifically, special condition 4 requires permittees such as Mill Creek to comply with state requirements for using all known, available, and reasonable methods of prevention, control, and treatment, or ACART is the acronym commonly used for ACART requirements to control pollution into the waters of the state of Washington. Okay. So ACART represents the most current methodology that can be reasonably required for managing pollution from stormwater sources. And one way the city meets ACART is by adopting an Ecology-approved regional stormwater management manual that provides guidance for applying ACART to stormwater discharges from new and existing development. So it's possible for the city to use another manual, either adopting another jurisdictions or elements of another jurisdictions. But there are some definite advantages to not doing that, including to not developing our own, mostly with the view of saving on administrative costs. So in addition, the adopted to the ACART requirements, the adopted Regional Stormwater Management Manual provides best management practices or BMP guidance for applying non-point source pollution controls. You may be familiar with point source pollution controls, which would be coming from someplace like a wastewater treatment facility and its discharge of treated effluent into a surface water body. Non-point source pollution is, by its definition, not from one particular point, but it's diffused. So BMPs of all types are a key element of those ACART requirement, and it forms the multiple foundations for city policies and requirements for effectively managing stormwater pollution. So the manual presents a number of BMPs, both previous and new, and these are under a constant state of revisiting and updating as new technical information comes to light. So to meet that special condition 4 of the municipal stormwater permit, we have to have a stormwater management manual that fulfills the ACART requirement. So by saying that we can produce our own or we can adopt another regional manual, that means that as long as those publications meet that ACART equivalence, we can use them. But it's not really necessary to do that. And so in recognition of that, Mill Creek has been using the Stormwater Management Manual for Western Washington. That's published by the Department of Ecology. And the Department of Ecology has been publishing these manuals since the early 2000s. So the edition that is currently reflected in Mill Creek's municipal code is the 2014 revisions of the 2012 edition. So Ecology regularly publishes a new edition of the Stormwater Management Manual for Western Washington, and yes, there is one for Eastern Washington as well, approximately every 5 years, which is coincident with the time frame for the stormwater permit itself, 5 years. So the 2019 edition of the manual is the current new edition. Ecology is already at work on developing the next edition that will come out or be in effect starting in 2025. So our permit typically requires adoption of an up-to-date regional stormwater management manual about 3 years after a new edition is published. So it's 2022, so we are almost on schedule. So in fact, we're at the permit required deadline to adopt a new stormwater management manual into the municipal code in order to maintain compliance with the permit. And the main adoption requirement is changing all the references to the in the municipal code, which amounts to 8 different articles within or 8 different sections within Articles 15 and 16. So those are the locations in Mill Creek Municipal Code that refer to the 2014 revision of the 2012 edition. And we need to update those to say refer to the 2019 edition. So the proposed amendments to effect this change are Exhibit A of the ordinance in your council packet. Sorry, I've been experimenting with with animations within PowerPoint. So thank you for your indulgence. So you may be asking, what are the benefits of adopting this new 2019 edition above and beyond the fact that we're required to do it? Well, they make these revisions and come out with these new additions because not only does it keep us consistent and compliant with the requirements of the Phase 2 municipal stormwater permit, but it provides some common standards of practice for developers, engineers, and contractors throughout Western Washington. And it maintains continuities for developers in Mill Creek by continuing to refer to a publication that they're already familiar with. So in hearkening back to what I said previously about saving on administrative costs or avoiding administrative costs, Ecology develops these stormwater manuals to meet municipal stormwater permit requirements, so cities do not have to bear the high cost of preparing and getting approved their own stormwater management manuals. The planning in recognition of this, last week on July 21st, the Planning Commission approved Resolution 2022-0171, recommending to the City Council the 2019 Ecology Stormwater Management Manual for Western Washington be adopted. So I've outlined some of the benefits. What changes between the manual that was prepared 5 years ago and the 2019 edition that is the most up-to-date version. So what the 2019 edition accomplishes is it enhances the usability of the manual, especially in making it easier for users to refer to sections and keep themselves informed by through online web use. Content changes include the modification and clarification of redevelopment impervious surface requirements, enhanced options to use equivalent areas for drainage management. It updates minimum requirements and best management practices. And it adds some guidance for the underground injection control program. So before we ask for further motion, can I answer any questions for any of the council members?
Angela, any questions? None? Everyone's an expert on stormwater management. Awesome.
Excellent. Then I would ask, thank you for your time, and I would ask that we move to.
You want to bring the motion back up? You may have ended the presentation, so you may need to reshare it again.
Okay. I'm not sure why it's not coming up.
Go ahead.
You could stop sharing. Oh, okay.
There we go.
All right.
Just go ahead and pull up the slide 12 there.
The next ordinance number would be 881.
We knew you were going to be adopting multiple ordinances this evening, so we went with a motion language that just said adopt an ordinance.
Mayor, on that basis, I'd like to make a motion.
Go ahead.
I move to adopt ordinance number 2022-881, amending Mill Creek Municipal Code paragraphs of Articles 15 and 16 to replace all references to the 2014 revision of the 2012 Stormwater Management Manual for Western Washington with the 2019 Stormwater Management Manual for Western Washington.
Second.
Any further discussion? None. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The ordinance is approved 6-0. Thank you, Frank. Thank you, Angela.
Thank you.
And we'll bring Frank right back. Keep rolling with the city engineer.
Not a problem, Angela. Thank you. I will go ahead and share mine now. Thank you much, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members. The topic I'd like to bring before you this evening is a request for your consideration to authorize professional services agreement for a 2022-2023 on-call engineering review and construction inspection services contract. A couple things I'm going to talk about tonight in following my usual pattern for trying to establish the context for why we're doing these various things. I want to go over briefly what role does a contracted services agreement like this play in the engineering services group of the Department of Public Works and Development Services. I want to review briefly with you the process we use for the consultant selection for this contract, the contract elements, because again, there's been some changes that we've made from recent past. Just a bit, again, following my usual pattern of a funding and expense review, followed by a proposed motion for a resolution, and then any questions you might have this evening. So first off, I do want to talk a little bit about this because you have received past presentations on on-call contracted services, and I want to bring that kind of up to date, both with my own perspective and then kind of where we're going here to try and make this a better tool for the city all the way around. The engineering services group is responsible for providing civil engineering reviews and construction inspection services to support city permitting. There's a couple of particular permits that we support. The right-of-way permit is a very large one. The clearing and grading permit associated with ground disturbance activities. The stormwater connection permit is one that has kind of fallen into a certain amount of disuse, but it is something we're trying to reawaken here. Drainage report and plan reviews, that is something that we're working on. Those are usually in conjunction with other permits, but there is also circumstances in which we might do a drainage review, a stormwater drainage review that is outside of a normal permit context. And then finally, other development permits, such as building permits, they do contain elements in which our engineering services group also performs reviews on their behalf. Historically, we've lacked adequate staff resources to complete these reviews and inspection activities in-house. And I want to emphasize for the purposes of this presentation that I've said staff resources, not just staff. Staff resources encompasses more than just the heads, but also several other factors. And these are factors that contracted services can help us kind of help support. And so I want to talk about some of the advantages that we expect when we sign a contract for on-call engineering and inspection services with somebody else. First of all, and this is the substantial advantage, it is a lot larger than just one bullet seems to represent, and that is a multiplier of our work hour resources on a per application, per project basis. The ideal is that we and staff set things up so that for a relatively little amount of work by city staff, to the tune of a couple hours, that we are accruing the value of 20 hours worth of work. That is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about multipliers. There are other advantages. One of the advantages is to compensate for the fact that we are usually a very small staff as a small city. And so the public demand for both for the quantity of applications that might be made and the expectations of the public for good customer service, those can be high and they can be very variable. And they're not the only staff tasks that we have in our engineering services group. There are a lot of larger cities out there that dedicate people just to this, but we don't do that. We don't have that organization. So we do have to meet the demand however it comes at us. And that's one way to reliably manage that, is to be aware that those, especially in the permitting application, they have unpredictable spikes and troughs in those demands. So we don't know what frequency permit applications might come at us until the permit application comes in the door. And then we have to be ready to service that application in a timely and effective and satisfactory fashion to the public, regardless of what other staff activities or program activities are occurring at the same time. Contracted services allows us to smooth out some of those spikes and troughs. And in particular, troughs, actually, I'm going to take a sidebar on that one. That's the other problem a lot of times is occasionally we look at staffing resources and we go, okay, this person's going to be super busy working on city staff in the summer, but are they going to be busy during the winter? This kind of removes that from the conversation to a certain extent, because we can put them on other assignments and such while using an on-call contract to address that particular lull in services. And that is particularly important for construction inspection, as construction inspection goes through spikes and troughs a lot more than even permit demand. Contracted services also have disadvantages, and these disadvantages are often a concern for city staff and the city council. The number one bullet, and I'm afraid this one's a famous one, is that labor expenses from consultants are expensive. Part of the reason that they are expensive is that state law regarding architectural engineering contracts kind of prohibits us from competing based on price. We can't give it to the cheapest folks. We have to put out a solicitation on the basis of qualifications, select the most qualified person, which may not be the cheapest person. So this is just can be expensive. So we got to make sure that we manage it appropriately. It's also not a method by which you can give a whole task to an on-call contractor and just send him on his way and say, come back and tell us when it's done. There is an obligation to support these contracts. There's monthly and regular contract administration and invoicing requirements. And one of the things that we have learned, sometimes the hard way, is that contracted services still require an active staff management of those contracted activities. And that includes providing in-house quality assurance reviews to verify that consultant quality control is staying consistent and delivering the best possible product. The delegation of direct public communications, that's a difficult thing to do with consulted on-call services. People expect to talk to the city. When they have questions or concerns about their permit reviews, when contractors have questions about findings of inspection, they prefer to talk to the city rather than the consultant. And then finally, permit application intake and associated public records, record keeping, that really truly needs to remain in-house for the most part. So we got to balance the scales a little bit whenever we enter into one of these contracts. During the period between 2018 and 2022, city staff in the Public Works Department and Development Services Department attempted to approach managing those disadvantages I've just described and maximizing the advantages through the use of multiple such consultant contracts. We had a few of them going all at the same time. It was effective at fulfilling the main need, the main demand in a general sense, but they ended up kind of lacking two problems that really, proved out the multiple contract approach was not very effective for us. It didn't reduce the disadvantages that in any way that I described. And in fact, some of those disadvantages then subsequently were exacerbated by the recent staffing changes within the department that took place over the last couple of years. As contract responsibility was passed from one person to another, the sense of what each of those multiple on-call consultant contracts was supposed to do or not do was largely lost in the process. And those on-call engineering contracts, while they focused very well upon design engineering review services, they really didn't incorporate scope to address transitional activities from city permit approval to construction, or really include construction inspection activities on behalf of the city. So we set out to correct those with this most recent contract. We advertised it with a new request for qualifications in April of this year. We consolidated the scope, all those elements that we need. So all the elements that were scattered across those multiple on-call contracts, most of which were expiring anyway, or would expire by the end of this year regardless. So it is a good time to phase out and clean house here to support that private development and the non-city right-of-way permitting. And that includes construction inspection on behalf of the city. 3 consultant firms responded with very competitive and suitable statements of qualifications. So it was a little bit of a tough time to sort through those. But Petite submittal did score the highest on the criteria that were included with that request for qualification. So we give them the criteria, we tell them on the basis of which we're going to to score them, they came in the highest on that scoring criteria. They do offer all the services that we need to support this on-call contract, including the construction services. They do bring a solid familiarity with the city of Mill Creek policies, the expectations from their experience with previous contracted services, and with their observations of what our need is today. So the contract elements, I kind of wanted to identify a few key ones for you here this evening. First of all, this contract is an on-call contract. It functions on a cap, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. We write task orders that focus, and these task orders for this contract will be focused on very specific development review efforts or specific inspection efforts. In other words, we will never write a task order that's just broadly provide engineering services or something like that. We're going to keep it focused, and that makes it easier to hold these tasks accountable and make sure that we maximize the benefits of this contract. That's usually done on a project by project basis, but we could pick another finite basis for a task order if one seems more applicable. Task orders are paid on a time and materials basis based on the actual work performed. So in other words, we might authorize a task up to a certain level of spending just to keep account on what we've obligated the contract to do, but we will not pay the consultant any more than what the consultant does in actual work, invoiced work to the city for that task. Overall, this on-call contract has a cap of $90,000. That's based on my estimates of the monthly right-of-way permit expenses based on a right-of-way permitting process this past 6 months, and the anticipated private developments that we see kind of coming down the pipeline either later this year or next year. I don't really like contracts that run overly long. I think there is merit to regularly re-advertising contracts, and I've worked with Director Todd to build a very efficient way of getting the advertisement out and processing these contract selections. So we have limited this contract to December 31 of 2023 with the intention of advertising a new contract as is suitable when we get towards the end of next year. There is built into the contract language a term that we have used in the past for 1-year extensions, and that's a just in case aspect of it, just in case we run into something unpredictable and we can't get that new contract in the future in place. But there is no option built into that for lifting the contract sum cap I've already mentioned without city council or city manager approval. In general, just to kind of break down how this slots into funding and expenses, the 21-22 budget allocated a total of $400,000 for contracted development review services, including all those older on-call contracts that I mentioned previously. As of June 2022, approximately 64% of that budget has been expended, so we do have money still left in the coffers to fund this contract. One of those previous on-call contracts I mentioned did actually expire at the end of June 2022. It left $25,000 on the table, so to speak, or returned unencumbered. So that does partially fit into how we are proposing funding this particular $90,000 contract that I've presented to you. There is sufficient allocated budget authorized and available to support this contract. However, given the new biennial budget process that we will be working on this fall with you, we will include the rollover to continue supporting this contract in 2023 as part of that 23-24 budget proposal later this year. So with that, and before we get to any decision making, can I answer any questions for you?
Thank you, Frank. Any questions? Councilmember Duque.
Thank you, Frank, for your presentation. So my question had to do with, you mentioned that the one had already expired in 2022, but there were still a couple of on-call contracts that expired potentially at the end of the year. So my question was, I see that this is for 2022 to 2023, this contract. So I was curious about what happens, how does it impact the other on-contract companies, or why not have it start 2023?
Sure. So there's a couple different answers to your question. So ironically, first of all, one of the still existing contracts that we're talking about is already with Petite. So that particular consultant they won't see a difference. We left, there are two contracts in particular, on-call contracts in particular, that are still enduring this year. Council approved extensions of these two contracts the end of last year when we thought we still needed it. One is with Petite, as I've already mentioned. The other is with Gray and Osborne. And essentially, both of those contracts have been extended primarily to afford continuity of service while we get this one up and running. So in the case of the Petite one, in the case of Petite, they don't lose anything here. They will just step from their remaining on-call contract into this new contract, and we will exercise the termination clause in the existing contract to close it up. The Gray and Osborne one, there may be need for other services. So the Gray and Osborne contract included both development review, inspection services, but was also a general engineering on-call contract that was in use by Director Todd and other city administration before I arrived. And it doesn't have a lot of budget left in it. It has an authorized whatever. So we've kind of left it intact in case we need any of the non-development review service components of that contract before the end of the year.
Thank you.
Councilmember Allison.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody that, did the evaluation and consolidating and getting down to, one contract or two contracts seems like the most efficient thing to do, and totally understand the pain of having to manage the support that you bring in. So I think the rest of my questions were around what Melissa asked. So thank you, Melissa. I was able to follow along and connect the dots. So thanks.
Any other questions, comments?
Mayor, do we have a resolution number?
2022-645.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay,
Motion to adopt resolution 2022-645, authorizing the city manager to execute an architectural and engineering contract for professional services with Petite Inc. in the amount of $90,000 for 2022 and 2023 on-call engineering review and construction inspection services.
Second.
is there any further discussion? Yeah, that jumped out at Grant and Martin. Would it be more appropriate for the motion to be for the in an amount not to exceed $90,000? Because it's not a contract for $90,000, it's for up to $90,000.
That would be correct, Mayor.
I would like to amend the motion to reflect that.
Did we have a second to the motion yet? Is the second
Yes.
amenable to that?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so the motion as amended would be changing for the amount, an amount not to exceed $90,000, correct?
Correct.
Okay, is there any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion passes 6-0.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Naomi, I'll hold off on signing this one till we get the corrected one. Yeah, so we'll figure it out. Okay, item H, city manager, the council vacancy.
Thank you, Mayor. So a few weeks back, Mayor posed a question of, we have a list of questions for the council position number 7 interviews that are going to be held on September 6th. With that, keep in mind that the deadline is August 19th for those applications. But regarding those questions, we also discussed that list and if there was a need to actually revise those questions or come up with a new list. A lot of things have changed. I believe that list has been used a number of times in the past. Council priorities and city manager priorities have changed, and we have some new priorities this year that might even be more conducive to some new questions that we could put together a list. So we thought about putting together might be a good idea to have a temporary council committee that would evaluate those lists and come up with some new questions before those interviews. So I'll leave it up open for discussion, and we can probably make a committee. I can probably organize a number of you if you wanted to make a decision who that make up for that committee.
I'd be willing to volunteer to be on that committee.
I would too.
Who's that?
Connie Ellis.
Looks like we have three. Yeah, we've used the same set for the last few times, and we don't have a meeting between now and the 6th. So our thought was delegate the responsibility to three of you to look at the questions and come back to us with proposed recommendations that we can ask from on the 6th. So
And Mayor, I'd like to be able to look at it before then as well. I didn't want to step in the way because we can only have three on the committee. So can we just send them out to everyone ahead of the meeting once they have figured out what they think they want to do, so we can look over them?
I'm sure we can coordinate something between now and the 6th.
Thank you.
So we have our informal committee for you to work with.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. And I'll go ahead and send an email out later this week to start the process in a proposed schedule. Get those approved. I know that people are on vacations as well, so we might want to accommodate that.
Item I, quarterly, is this our second quarter financial reports? Finance Director, Ms. Brock.
Try to get close enough to this so that everyone can hear me. Naomi, can I get that first page? Okay, so I'm sure everyone has noticed that things are getting more expensive. I think we're going to start with some information from the state. So I did include the state economic and revenue forecasts, and then we're just going to slide into the city's numbers. So I was in a presentation today, and they just gave us some good numbers that I thought I wanted to run by everyone so that they understood where we're heading. So right now, inflation is roughly 10.1% for June, with the core of that, so that's going to be anything that doesn't include food and gas, is at 8.8%. So to combat this, the Federal Reserve is raising interest rates. They're looking at a 0.75% increase tomorrow, and then they are looking at hitting roughly 3.4% by the end of the year, with current rates being about 1.6. So they're looking at a 0.75 point this month, 0.5 point in September, 1/4 point in November, and another 1/4 point in December. So if you look at what they're saying, they're basically looking at what's going to be happening as they start increasing interest rates. You know, your credit card, if it's got a variable rate, it's going to be harder to go and buy the extra stuff that you thought you'd want to buy. All of your mortgage rates are going to be impacted. So they're thinking this is going to cool everything down. You can see as we slide into November and December, they're only doing it by 1/4 point. So they're thinking that things are going to be slowing down. The inflation is going to be coming down by the end of the year. So to top that off, second quarter construction permits for the state were down, and new housing construction cancellations were up to 24%. So this is the highest they've seen since 2020. REIT is coming in lower than expected. They're coming down about 3.5%. And they're saying it's from residential activity. So we get REIT revenue anytime that a house is sold or a building is sold. So it has to change hands for us to get that REIT income. So when interest rates are higher, people are less likely to be selling their homes quite as quickly. So they're saying that retail sales are going to be dropping. Again, you know, if you don't have as much discretionary income, you're not going to be going out and buying the extras. You're not going to buy that extra dress, those extra shoes, that kind of thing.
Laurel,
So,
sorry, even with the sizzling housing market, REIT's down.
REIT is down 3.5%.
Yes. So it's mainly because even though the market is going crazy, it is slowing. And so houses aren't flipping quite as fast. So, so state taxes were up 6.5% for retail sales year over year in June, but overall state revenues were down and they were lower than forecasted. So moving into city financials, our sales tax, construction sales tax, retail sales tax is down compared to 2021. So these are just things we need to keep in mind. They are saying that while retail sales, construction sales are going to be going down, because we do have inflation, this is going to be increasing the prices of everything. So they do think that sales tax is going to remain stable. So it's not something we need to really worry about. Since the city, their main revenue sources is going to be property taxes, it's going to be sales tax. As long as sales tax remains at that same level that we are used to seeing and it's not dropping down, so inflation is going to be offsetting this, we should be okay. Even with the housing crisis in 2008, most cities were fine, mainly because they didn't see their property taxes coming and crashing. So that's just one thing to remember. On the upside, they are saying that supply chain recovery is happening more quickly. So there are more goods available. So, you know, that inflation is the supply and demand. And so now the demand is going to be cooling because that interest rate is going up and there's going to be more goods available. So really good news is they're expecting inflation to drop to 3.5% in 2023. And then it's going to drop down to 1.5% in 2024 is what forecasters are saying. So essentially all of these crazy interest rate increases should offset inflation. So for our next budget cycle, when we're looking at how are we going to pay for all of the operational things we need, we're hoping that that is going to come and calm down by 2023. All right.
Laurel, quick question.
Yes.
On the tax revenues you mentioned, that was a combined tax revenue. Am I wrong? Is sales tax revenue though, retail sales tax revenue is still up, right?
Correct.
It's the other ones combined with it that take it overall down.
Got construction.
Right. So retail is still up,
Yes.
but it's the other ones. that
Not
carry it down.
for the city though.
Not for the city. The city sales tax revenue, retail sales tax revenue is down.
Correct. Yeah, for the month and annually. The quarter, no, I believe. We'll go over that here in a minute. So overall, sales tax is up still 2.9% over budget. So that's good. We're 2% over prior year. Naomi, can I get you to go? I believe it's 28. Just so we can take a look. So as you can see, construction is down. This is June. So this is going to be April revenues that are then dispersed in June. So construction is down compared to prior year. And then we also have retail, trade, and information. So information is going to be publishing. So like software publishing, traditional publishing, motion picture and sound recording industries, broadcasting industries. So those three are really coming down. If we can go to the quarterly, so it's the next page. 29. And then if we can go up just a little bit. Oh, I think this is still monthly.
What is the information line?
So that's going to be your publishing. So traditional publishing, software publishing. So they're sharing information, all of your broadcasting services, and then motion picture and sound recording. So again, the quarter we have construction that's taking a hit and the information. So quarterly, the retail trade is up. But then if we go to annual, that's the next page. It's gonna be on page 30. and see, we actually have construction down. And retail trade is down compared to 2021. And so is the information services. So just interesting, but we do know that as inflation is going to be hitting, while these in theory are coming down, the prices of everything are going up. So our bottom line should remain fairly stable. And then just one quick piece, we are at roughly 52% of our budget for sales tax in 2022, where we were at 49% in 2021 at this time, so January through June, versus 63 and 57 for 2020 and 2019. So we're a bit below, but I will say we did do the amendment for sales tax because it was going to be coming in a little bit higher. So that's one reason that number is a little bit higher.
On the construction, I mean, the spike in 20 and 21, I assume is the farm.
Correct.
And so when we say that it's taking a hit now, I'm not so sure that's an effect of the economy as it is an effect of we're built out. There's just not a lot of land to be developed and built on right now to generate construction tax revenue. I don't think that's a function of the economy. It's a function of what we have available to build.
I would say yes, but the state is also experiencing the same trend. So I think it could be both.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, there's been a lot in the news. Some construction projects, for instance, downtown Seattle high rises have been put on hold. So, they'll start seeing a pause in those jurisdictions from developments that are put on hold. But we're fortunate we don't have any like that.
So from revenue, really we've covered sales tax. Grants are up only because we did receive, these annual amounts. So they look like they're higher. Really, it's just where we're at right now. By the end of the year, we're going to be right on target. Charges for services, we do know that that's going to be coming up. We have some law enforcement funding that we're expecting to get in July. And then we do know that our rec programs closed due to COVID. So we're still in the works on that. So that is going to be increasing. Miscellaneous revenues, you have our franchise agreements are also annual. So that's why that specific item is higher. And then I'm just going to slide into expenses. Overall, in the
You take that just a second though on fines.
yes,
That is a significant decrease. Is that just due to inability to collect fines?
so with COVID, we did not have. We've also had some staffing issues with the police, so we have not been going out and haven't been giving the fines for building permits, for speeding tickets, for any number of items that an officer would give you a ticket for, whether it's, for your lawn being overgrown and you having junk in your yard, or, just speeding or something related to, your normal automotive type of.
So those fines are all related to police or lack of police.
Not just police, so your building permits, so like all of your, so like any, that side of things also shut down just because, we've had people working from home. We don't have someone going out and saying, hey, here's a tag. Also from staffing issues on economic development side. So we just haven't had that. I do know we are looking at that right now. That is something we're discussing how we want to handle that.
So, okay, so that's also a product of inspections and not being able to go out and list those fines as well.
Right. So it's not just officers.
Yeah, that's probably our largest decrease
Yes.
against projection.
So we-
Percentage.
overall, 241,000, not as big compared to other
Yes,
places, but it's still
on a
something.
percentage basis, yeah.
Yes. So I will say at this point in time, IT is currently the highest over budget. We do know this is not new. It has to do with COVID, all of the new software we needed to handle the pandemic, and then all of the additional equipment we needed, all of our new employees. We needed to make sure we had at least enough laptops that everyone could work from home, that kind of thing. From there, HR is actually dropped. So they are now only 0.7% over budget. So if you remember last month, they were over 5% over budget. So I am expecting this to continue dropping. With our legal expenses having come down so much, that is where we're going to see the most savings. And so this savings is going to help us offset some of our additional expenses throughout the other funds. So I'm expecting these savings to cover the IT being over on his budget. Others, non-departmental, they're above budget, but these are also annual items. So we know that, this is an annual thing. This is not, by the end of the year, it's going to be right on target. And then Public Works, we're over by 7.8%. We have increased fuel and utility costs. We have repair and maintenance costs, and then just the annual capital purchases that we've made. And then right now we do have streets that are over budget. We are not expecting to need any kind of a budget amendment on this one because most of it is related to different repairs. So when, someone hits a light, we've had to replace a few of those and they are pretty costly. But that's not something we're expecting to continually happen. Surface water revenues are 14% above budget, mainly because we did move.
Can you scroll the screen down so we can see what you're?
It'll be that next page. And ARPA, we do have the revenue. We got our second tranche in July, so it's not reflected here, but we have not had any expenses come out of that yet. So city streets, you can see revenues are slightly below, expenses are above. So we're shooting for 75% right now because we're 18 months into a budget of 24 months. So that's how you're going to align these percentages. I will say we do have, you can notice the revenues on council contingency were over budget because our interest has been coming in, so it's better. We did have some investments that were done earlier, I believe it was in January. So those are helping. We'll be looking at adding some more investments as we look at what our capital plan is going forward.
Laurel,
Yes.
I have a quick question. Why are the city streets funds over? Does it have something to do with just when we actually ended up paying the bill or getting the money?
So the city streets are actually just the repairs and maintenance. So we were talking about the different lights that people have hit. So we've got higher repair costs. We also have fuel has increased.
Okay.
But that's what that's related to. And it helps when you can see it. So
I did hear you say that. It just didn't click. Sorry.
yeah, not a problem. We do know on municipal arts, I will be working on having our accountant move funding for municipal arts into council contingency for the utility boxes, just so that we are still within budget. We had talked about moving that. It just has not happened yet. Okay, we can go down just a little bit. Don't think we have anything to note here. Revenues are pretty close on City Hall North. And then expenses are under. Nothing. Can we go down past debt service? All right. So you can see that REIT, we have no expenses in this yet. We do have expenses budgeted. So these are going to be any of your capital project funds. These are going to be mainly transfers. So these are, depending on what happens in our CIP and what our needs are for our current biennium, these may or may not be made. I will tell you more after we get through our CIP and we have everyone's priorities for the different capital projects. So REIT is, again, a REIT is over due to the farm properties changing hands previously. Capital improvement. So all of these expenses are going to be under budget because at this point in time, we just don't have the staff to complete these projects. So we did put a lot of our capital projects on hold for COVID. And so getting back in there, getting our engineers, once we're staffed, that's when these are going to start increasing. I don't know that I would expect to see these increase a large amount by the end of this year. So we're just going to take that savings and we're going to put that into our next biennium. So anything we don't complete, you guys will be letting us know what your priorities are. Frank will be working with you and Director Todd as well.
Laurel, can we go back to the contingency fund and the arts and beautification?
Yes.
I remember that we discussed the possibility that we could use contingency funds if needed, but I did not remember us approving that it was needed and that we were going to do so for the reps.
I believe that was during the budget amendment and there was talk about moving it. If we want to leave it, we can, and I can do a budget amendment, or if council agrees before the end of the year, we will need to make that decision. So I can hold off on that and potentially have a discussion on that.
Yeah, I guess my main question is, do they need us to use the council contingency fund for it, or looks like they have the funds themselves in the.
So they have part of it. We are at 102%, so we would have to at least move part of it.
Okay.
Just to come in, we'd have to move $202 bare minimum. Otherwise, we'll need a budget amendment, and that can be done. That's not a big deal. Last year, we did do a much longer budget process. You're not actually required to do budget hearings for an amendment. So this could be much easier than last year, especially since we're moving into our budget season. But if that's something we want to consider, I'm very open to fixing that.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Does anyone have any questions?
Other question? Any other questions? Great. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to our consent agenda this evening. Item J is approval of checks number 64930 through 64990 and ACH wire transfers in the amount of $196,588.50. Audit committee was Councilmember Duque and Councilmember Steckler. Were there any exceptions?
No exceptions.
No exceptions.
Item K, payroll and benefit ACH payments in the amount of $251.69.07. Any exceptions?
No exceptions.
No exceptions.
And city council meeting minutes of July 5th, 2022. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Consent agenda is approved 6-0. Okay, brings us to reports. Just two things tonight. Thank you, Mayor, for me while I was on vacation a couple weeks ago. The other item I had to report is I was pleased to receive an email either last week or the week before from the, I think, Department of Commerce, letting me know that we had received a $125,000 grant to be put towards our 2024 comp plan process. So pennies from heaven. It was a pleasant surprise. I wasn't expecting it. So Martin and Director Todd are on top of that, getting that put in place. That's all I had tonight, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. I would like to start by just thanking everyone that made the Mill Creek Festival a success. You know, the chamber, the Rotary who fed us, all the staff that worked countless hours to make sure it was a success. I spent the majority of the 2 days there, and I did go around and I talked to a lot of our vendors and asked them how they were doing, what they thought about the festival, and most of them were so excited. They were selling out of all their items. They were really enjoying being here, and it seems like it was a tremendous success. So thank you to everyone who made that possible. Second, I'm going to just briefly touch on this, but then I'll let the chief talk more about it. I had the honor of going to the press conference to discuss the regional training centers that the governor had, and I know Senator Lovick has taken his knowledge from coming and asking us about what we need and listened, and is proposing that we start to have regional training centers, which will be for our new police officers. So I'll let the chief elaborate on that a little more, so because I probably won't do it justice. But I was really excited to hear about this and that this could really be helpful for our needs. And I'm going to encourage all my council members up here to make sure that you do reach out to our representatives and let them know that you are excited because this could really help our city, and make sure you let them know that you are excited about this and that you want this to go forward. And I will let the chief explain more in detail for you. Thanks.
Councilmember Stecker, any report tonight?
I just wanted to make a couple comments too on the Mill Creek Festival because it was so successful. You know, a lot of people, many people know this, many people don't know this. The Mill Creek Festival is an event put on by the Mill Creek Chamber, and they can't do it themselves. And so they reach out into the community, and they have a list of a couple hundred slots that they need to fill. And the people who step up are the associations and organizations of our community. The Mill, sorry, we mentioned the Mill Creek Rotary, the Kiwanis Club of Mill Creek, the Mill Creek Women's Club, so many other organizations, so many other individuals. When I was there, I was so excited to see our police staff there. Our Citizens Patrol was there. Our city staff, many I'm looking at right now here in this council chamber, who were out there in the working the booths. It is a festival that is made possible due to the volunteer efforts of so many people, and you really don't realize it. You get inside of it, you'll look at how many of those slots are filled by so many different organizations, not to mention the different political organizations that volunteer and put time into it. So it really is a grassroots festival. And one of my jobs I did a couple of different jobs. One of them was I was a booth sitter, whose job it is to go sit in a booth when the poor artists who are the lonely artists who have a booth by themselves, they have to go to the bathroom, and they have to go eat. So they call the booth sitter who sits in their booth to make sure nobody steals their stuff. And so I was the booth sitter that, I had to come in and sit while they were gone, and almost sold some stuff a couple of times, but I wasn't that good. But they told me the same thing. They were selling stuff at this event, a lot of stuff. So it was a very successful event, but really the great success of that event goes out to the volunteerism of our community. I also want to put out a word too, that I sat a day in a booth in the information booth on Saturday. Great way to meet the community, and a lot easier than knocking on doors, because they come by and knock on your door when they see your little councilman badge. Had a lot of questions. Mainly, I got a lot of praise for what's happening. People are coming out into the community, and thanks to what they're seeing of things like the Mill Creek Festival, I could, if I had a nickel for every time somebody said how much they enjoyed seeing the pianos on Main, I really could have afforded to buy a hot dog at that expensive hot dog stand at the Mill Creek Festival. A lot of pleasure with that. I did get a lot of questions, city manager. I didn't have any answers on update on the parades. That's something forthcoming. A lot of people want to know, are we doing a parade? Are we not going to be bringing back the parade? I got that question an awful lot. I think it was just a heightened wave of excitement in the air for people coming out of their homes and seeing the end of COVID, and maybe we're coming out of this gray wave. So it was a wonderful weekend in Mill Creek, but it was really a celebration of Mill Creek and the volunteerism in the community. So I just wanted to put that, echo what Mayor Pro Tem already said, but it was a very wonderful weekend to be here. That's all I gotta say.
Councilmember Cavalieri, any report?
Thanks, Mayor. Just real brief. I guess I'll keep the gratitude conga line moving. The festival was a home run. Every vendor, every participant, everybody just had nothing but great things to say. Everybody did well. Everything was safe for the most part. I didn't hear of anything bad, anything detrimental. I mean, so just say thanks to the staff, the volunteers, the departments, The organizers, the business association, all these groups that came together this job and really lifted our city up to the spotlight. And, we became the brand that we expect us to be. And it was really good to kind of just shine for a little bit and see all the smiles on the people's faces who were just dying for, whether it was a day out, a weekend out or whatever, but seeing all the families there, the pets, everything was really exciting. It's really pure Americana. So thank you, everyone. Good job. Well done.
Councilmember Allison?
Well, I can't really add much to all that praise, but I too enjoyed the festival. I was only there on Sunday. I wasn't there the whole weekend, but it was a fabulous time and everybody seemed to be enjoying themselves, and that's what it really matters. And it makes this community feel like a small town. And I appreciate that. And I know everyone else does too.
Councilmember Duque, any report tonight?
Ditto on everything about the festival. But I just wanted to, we are going through a heat wave right now. So for those looking for relief, the library, Mill Creek Library hours are 10 to 8, Wednesday and Thursday, and then Friday it's 10 to 6. So if anyone's looking for a place, I know there's other locations. Some people are fortunate enough to have air conditioning. Some of us are not. And so we all, kind of find places to cool down. So just wanted to flag that for everyone. I also wanted to share, to say thank you to our communications team for the social media post that they had. They shared just a post from Snohomish County. I think it was health district, but it provides additional information about cooling centers and also what to keep an eye out for heat stroke. I'm a coach for my son, both of my boys' baseball team. We had a game last night and you could just see the kids when they reached a certain point. The other team was great and provided otter pops for everyone. So that was really sweet. And we have our last game tomorrow and we're already thinking about how we can make sure they're staying cool and hydrated because they want to be there, but it's so incredibly warm. So making sure to know the signs of when your kid or when you have had enough. And also, of course, your pets, not keeping your pets in cars is really important. The heat just gets really crazy inside cars. So that's it. Thank you.
City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. We have a number of reports before we take this long break. First one I want to give is a report over kind of what we're going to accomplish over the next month, since we are not going to be meeting. So at the high level, I'll start off kind of some of the things that I'll be working on. One is kind of thinking about Mayor Pro Tem and I met recently about discussing the process to, as we think about our ideas for our 2023 legislative priorities. So we'll be meeting more in probably the next few weeks, depending on vacations, but I'll at least start thinking about how we can move forward in that entire process. Second is I'll be meeting with this is a good month for me to start meeting with more organizations. I mentioned in the past, I mentioned with Rotary and Chamber, both went really well, very inviting. Some examples, Panos Group, private owner, majority owner of the town center, Economic Alliance, and also our boards and commissions throughout the month of August. I'll try to meet with them as well. I think they're still meeting across those weeks. Another item is Mayor asked me to put together a summary of the tasks or the key items or responsibilities that I will hold as a city manager, as well as the deputy city manager roles going forward. This will coincide with the posting, which our HR manager will speak more to the posting of the deputy city manager position that went up on August 1st. We'll have interviews probably that third week in August. So that's a big thing. I'll let Debbie elaborate more on that. COVID policy. We'll probably be discussing the COVID policy throughout the month of August as well. Hospitalization rates have been going up a bit. Haven't seen it in the past week, but we're going to monitor those closely, kind of see where we are, and how we can adjust that policy if possible.
The AV system.
Pardon me?
Are we still on schedule for the AV system install in August?
Yes, we are. On the IT side, chamber retrofit. The AV system will be the week of August 8th, and that entire week. We'll have dimensional in here. basically working with our IT manager. After that is completed, we'll have some testing that we'll have to do across council and our staff. So we'll somehow fit that in as we get after that project is completed. And our IT manager will reach out to everyone to get the system moving and tested. On the PD side, one of the big things is working on an operational plan for the police substation, the administrative facility that we are working on over at the farm. We're currently working with the Vintage on executing a lease agreement, and that will be completed. Probably we'll have that completed probably sometime in August, or most likely in August, and then we'll have set that for approval at the beginning of September. Our city clerk's office will be working on a project that will start the research on increasing a salary study on council salaries. The salaries have been the same for many years. And so we're going to do a study similar to what we've done with our salary study for all the non-represented employees. And then we'll find some comps and kind of see what other cities are doing in terms of compensating council members. I'll leave the HR staffing priorities for HR manager who will report on that in just a little bit. Marketing also, they're going to be reporting today on the events that are happening throughout August and kind of an update on recent happenings. Fire annexation. The end of August, end of September is a time when we've talked to Surfer. They're going to be providing us with a list of equipment and then things that we'll have to work on to be transferred in the transition process. The other areas are not only a transfer of the equipment, but also the engine, working on the real estate items, site inspection, and the fire marshal contract. I'm not sure if we'll address all things in the month of August, but those are the things that were on our list that are of high priority. Another item related to the fire annexation is building that relationship and partnership with South County Fire. So we'll be sometime in September meeting with them, but probably planning that sometime in August. The public works side, we mentioned that the RFQ for the DRCC consultant went out. And so we'll be receiving those in the month of August and reviewing those consultants and lining those up with grants. We'll also be working on lining up grants for the library renovation as well. As our finance director mentioned, we are heavy in the budget process. August will be a big month. The 19th is when these budgets are due from our departments. So right now we've met with them. We've had initial meetings. We're currently meeting and discussing revising those budgets, and those will be submitted later in August. A big piece of that is actually refining our CIP on the public works side. And so Director Todd will have a heavy lift on that and figure out kind of where we stand on those projects and how those will fit into our next biennial budget. And with that, I'll hand the
Martin, can I
reports.
ask you one question?
Yes.
On the retrofit
Yes,
here, I don't know what the details are on that, but I noticed in some of the council chambers I've seen, they have built-in computer monitors, and many of us are bringing our own personal computers in and hooking them up. Is that going to be part of the retrofit? Are we looking at adding monitors into this built into the station? So
Yes, sir. It'll be fully outfitted with monitors.
oh, great.
Yep.
That'd be wonderful.
Mics will be replaced, even the dated switch boxes, those as well.
So we'll have standard monitor computers in here. So we
I
won't be
believe
bringing
they're
our own.
17-inch monitors.
That's great.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
I'll take any other questions. All right, thank you. With that, I'll hand off the reports over to Scott Harder, Communication Marketing with August events.
Thanks, Martin. Mayor Pro Tem, and council members. With permission, I need to find something. There's breaking news. It was on the news tonight. I'd like to share this with you. It's about a 3-minute video. That'd be okay? Give me 1 second. It's not breaking. Naomi, can you see that?
Yes, we can.
Well, first, there's going to be a children's concert happening here tonight as part of the City of Lacey's Summer Live Entertainment.
Yep. Got it.
Washington State residents. If
Enjoy
you
this
have
ad,
a
please.
utility meter like this on the side of your house.
Matt, thanks. You know, with all this sunny, hot weather, maybe you want to get outside and enjoy a little bit of it if you find some shade. In today's edition of Driver on the Street, photojournalist Michael Driver is taking us over to Mill Creek, where a stroll down Main Street offers an experience that's so good, it feels like music to your ears.
City of Mill Creek is just a fantastic place to live. Just a wonderful community where the folks really want to be involved.
I think it's a cool idea.
Mill Creek is unique.
What is this? A piano?
Mill Creek City Council came up with the idea. They wanted to bring music and art to the streets. Create an opportunity for the community to engage, to share time together.
You feeling it?
Great. It makes people open up a little bit. Play any tune that's in their head that they have memory of from their lessons long ago. Or if they're more skilled, then they play longer and everyone seems to enjoy it.
Even for people that can't play like us, it's just fun to just take a minute and just play the music.
I'm gonna play it.
Yeah, it's better.
All the pianos are on Main Street in Mill Creek Town Center. Music is so wonderful because you can just be walking by shopping and you hear somebody playing down the street and you're gonna smile. You just are.
For me, it's like a real healer.
That was pretty good. These are difficult times for a lot of people.
I've got a light.
Coming out of a very dark time.
I'm just about to sit down and just jam out.
And people really just want to be outside and be together.
Nice.
And this gives them the opportunity to do that in a safe place. I think that's one of the special things about the music and what it's bringing to Main Street.
Does this really work?
Nice to have a positive community. Something out there so that people can literally put out positive vibes. Out into the community, it's really nice.
So this will be, it aired tonight at 4, 5, and 6. It's going to be up for a few weeks, I guess. It'll be a piece. You can't get better organic media than something like this. I don't know if you guys noticed, but I was like, here's a good stopping point. They just kept going and going. And it was just great timing, I think, for sure. Okay, Naomi, if you can bring up
the PowerPoint. That was great. Councilman Steckler, you brought that up because it was like, oh, there's my segue. Yeah. Yeah. Big kudos to Jody. She didn't want to go in front of the huge win. And kudos to the Arts and Beautification Board and everybody that put that together. So, and Public Works for putting them out there. That's a huge lift. And for Jody, I made her go in front of the camera. So. She did great. Okay, so I'm just going to give a quick update on city and community events, successful events. See, I saw a segment coming soon. It was breaking news. So, but they'll be out till September 5th. And they're just, I don't know, everybody else probably sees it going up and down Main Street. They're getting played. People love them.
Cora played it today after her doctor's appointment.
There you go. Party in the parks. Nope, go back. So that was at Highlands Park on June 30th. This was huge. I don't know. I know Duque and Vignal were there. It was hundreds of people. It was everyone just wants to do something. So the timing was perfect. You know, we had the balloon artist. We had, you can see on the right with the ice cream truck and the food truck there. They both sold out. So they left early. It was good news and everybody really had a great time. So for the next slide, the other successful events, Mill Creek Festival, I'm not even going to touch on that. I'll just say, you know, the Youth Advisory Board had their own booth. They had Plinko. It was a huge hit. As you can see, one of the kids had to gamble because you could win a prize or you had to clean your room. And the parents loved that one. So they had a lot of fun with that. But it was a big success for sure. And we had a chance to really engage and educate people and hand out some of our new swag. There wasn't a lot of people giving away stuff from what I heard, and we had a lot of great stuff. So people really liked that. And then with the run of the mill, we, you know, over the weekend that happened on Saturday, Steve Knox here says, you know, this year's event was by far the most effectively executed event we have had since taking it over in 2006. Just words of appreciation, city council, the city staff, and they were just really happy with how it went. And Sergeant Fouch and everybody else and Matthew's crew just did a great job. Next slide, it's just an update about the summer concert series. We know it's every Wednesday from 6 to 8. As a sponsor, we've got a couple dates that we're letting city staff come to. If they can't make it to one, they can make it to the other one. So everybody can go, hopefully. And then next slide talks about the next party in the parks, which is this Thursday. So this one's at Heron Park from 5 to 7. It's a smaller park, less parking. You know, we're encouraging residents to walk or carpool, bring water because there's a warm forecast. I could not get the fire truck to come out and spray water. They won't do that anymore, I guess. But we've limited the amount of booths. Still have the same food truck and the same ice cream truck coming as well. And we have plans in place to alert residents about the impact of the event starting tomorrow morning. And if you see in the bottom left there, I don't know if anybody saw our post with that little girl. We did a little drone flyby of Heron Park. It's pretty cool. And then Mill Creek Sports Park is going to be on Thursday, August 25th, the last one. Does anybody remember Board Bash? Started in 2008, went through 2015, so they did 8 of them. Well, Board Bash 9 is going to be on August 25th. So we've teamed up with Pop Skateboard Shop. They're going to be running that show and do an exhibition. And then we have a lot of plans that I can't reveal just yet that are still kind of up in the air, but it's going to be a huge event. And we're really excited for that event for sure. Next up, the next slide, National Night Out, Tuesday, August 2nd. That's just a week from today. So that's going to be from 5 to 8. What's different this year? We've got a pickleball demonstration. I think there's going to be a few people we know that'll be in that demonstration, as well as line dancing with an instructor you all know that's on this call. I'm just going to leave it at that. So yeah, that's it. What questions can I answer about anything?
Thank you. Wonderful job. I have a question because I know with the party in the parks for Heron, we're concerned about parking and obviously and how it'll impact. But I was thinking about it as well for, it turns out I will be here for the August 25th. I thought I wasn't going to be here, so I was really disappointed. But what about for parking issues there? Because that gets pretty backed up with limited parking for Freedom Field. And then, so I'm assuming the overflow parking will be available.
Yeah, Matthew confirmed that they will open up.
Okay,
that.
yeah, that was thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Scott.
Okay, so thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, Council, and thank you, Scott. Appreciate it. I couldn't agree more with Mayor Pro Tem's comments, and thank you for teeing this up for me quite a bit on the regional training centers for law enforcement. Last Thursday, I was also honored to attend a presentation from the governor, supported by or presented by Senator Lovick, and also along those attendants were Director Alexander and Representative Berg, all of them very much in support of these regional training centers that are going to be going up hopefully in the near future. Sites they're looking at are the Tri-Cities and then Vancouver, Everett, and Bellingham. So there's been a huge struggle with getting candidates into the academy. They only have so many spots for all these candidates that are coming in droves. We've had a lot of attrition in law enforcement. We've had people leaving. We've had people going on to different careers, retiring. And so trying to find the space for all these new candidates coming in is very difficult. Class size is limited, facilities are limited, and instructors are limited right now. So the proposal is to open these regional training centers in those 4 locations. It's being proposed by Senator Lovick, endorsed by the mayor, and the governor, and I'm really excited about it. These training centers are going to be very beneficial to us. There is some cost that's going to have to be mitigated. This is just the initial stages of this proposal being brought forth by the senator. So I'll definitely be bringing more information to you as we move forward. But I'm excited about the possibilities, and we'll see where it goes in the future.
Thank you, Chief. Can I add something? I guess not being in law enforcement, I didn't realize how limited we were on our training facilities. And one of the things that was brought up that really struck me is by opening up more regional training facilities, then we actually are opening up for more people to actually be able to apply that want to be police officers, because right now they're turning away people sometimes, not because they're turned away, but because they can't take the time away from their family because they're needed to be with their family to go away for training. And so this will open up some opportunities for those people who really want to get into law enforcement, but can't be away from their families. So I'm really excited about those opportunities. And I was really appreciative of the education that I received, since I'm not being in police, a police officer. I was unaware of some of these challenges that we were facing. So I was really impressed by that.
Councilmember Allison.
Yeah, I just had a question. Was there at one point the regional training centers and then it all got consolidated into a central? No, it's always just been one place in the whole state?
So there's actually 2 full-time facilities, one in Spokane, one in
East
Burien.
and west, okay.
And so to the Mayor Pro Tem's comment, we had candidates that were living in Okanagan County that were coming to Burien for a 5-month stay to complete their training. Easy for some folks, very difficult for others, people with families. And I believe it was the chief from Pasco that brought up the fact that he had a candidate that was looking to join the police force there and couldn't take the time away from the family to attend the academy. This was a qualified candidate that more than likely would have been fairly successful, but due to the duration of the academy, which is 720 hours, which is equivalent to nearly 5 months, for them to be away from their family from Monday through Friday, that's a difficult ask. So the opening of these regional training facilities in those 4 locations would make it a lot easier for people to attend. We also have some issues with housing at these facilities. The training center in Burien had some housing that was available to candidates to come from further distance, from agencies with further distance. That housing is now not suitable for the academy. So now agencies are having to house these folks that are attending the academy in these two locations, Spokane and in Burien. So if I send in a cat, for example, I'm sending in a recruit to the academy right now, and that recruit is going, we have to, that's a long haul to be there at 7 in the morning and leave at 5 at night. And, it's difficult during the week. So the localization of these facilities will make it far easier for not just the candidates, but also for the cities to operate and afford the training process.
So, Kate?
I wanted to start with saying what an incredible advocate you are for your profession. It's great hearing from you all of this. So thank you. And, great job for everyone who's working on this. And I'm incredibly hopeful that this will come to pass. You mentioned space and facilities as some of the roadblocks that happen. But you also mentioned instructors. Is the hope then potentially, because, obviously this is being built, because there's more, the same reason that we can get people to attend, does it also mean that maybe there'll be more people interested in being instructors because there's these regional areas? Or how will that instructor play come into it? Or is that something that still needs to be addressed?
It does need to be addressed. It's one of the things I brought up with Senator Lovick is the concern on where do we find the instructors, because it's always been a difficult task, especially when an officer who works in Bellingham is now asked to become a TAC officer in Burien. Just a company car doesn't really cover that commute, right? So I believe what the plan is to start by looking at individuals who are just shortly retired, just shortly have retired, and possibly bring them on. We have separation documents that we file with the Criminal Justice Training Commission, and they may be looking at some of those officers that have decided to maybe transition into a different career, maybe try and recruit some of them to become TAC officers at these new regional locations. I also believe that you'll see just, due to the localization of these facilities, that some of the other instructors that are currently working may have the interest in joining the ranks of an instructor cadre and hopefully working at some of these facilities that are more regional. That's it.
Thank you, Chief. We'll hand the floor over to our HR manager, Debbie Mills, to report on staffing. Thank you.
Thanks, Martin. I'm going to share my screen again.
A little louder, please.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen again. Okay, as you can see, we have quite a few open recruitments going on. As Martin mentioned, the deputy city manager, we posted on July 18th. Closing on August 1st with our.
It's hard to hear a little bit, Debbie. Is it?
Any way we can raise your volume?
Maybe raise the volume on the.
Yep.
Come on, Debbie.
Is that better?
Laurel's working on the PC.
Okay.
You may have to just go a little closer to your machine.
Okay.
Okay. That's a little better. Yep.
Okay.
I think Joe's coming to see you.
Okay. So. Okay.
That's better. I just turned it up for them out here.
Okay, thanks. Okay. So we have quite a few recruitments going on at the moment. Our deputy city manager was posted, as you can see, July 18th. Now that the salary range has been approved, the new salary range, I'll be reposting and trying to do what I call boosting it, bringing it to the attention of some of the recruiting sites that I've been using, like Government Jobs. So it'll be like one of the first ones that will be seen. Received a few applications so far for that position. The police support services technician, getting a lot of applications for that. It's a civil service position, so it's a little more involved. We'll do a testing process. I'll be working with police department with that. Planning and development manager, it's been very difficult to even get applications. Hopefully, here again, I'll be posting it with the new salary range, anticipating getting some increased applications. Project engineer, I haven't had an opportunity to touch bases with Frank or Director Todd yet, but I know they had an interview. Customer service representative, those are our individuals that are doing an excellent job with our passports processing, and amazing how many applications we have been getting for that. Jody has been very busy looking at those. Public Works Supervisor, I will be posting that. I'll be getting together with Director Todd. We'll be working out a recruitment plan for that. The title will be changed as well. And our police officers, I think the last time Stan reported on that, we had 4, and we are working on those. Seasonal maintenance workers, everybody is having difficulties recruiting for those positions. And then our police chief, I just learned that I will be working with a recruiting firm. So I'll be working on that and making that a high priority. So does anyone have any questions at the moment? So
Not seeing any. Thank you for the update.
we have a lot of recruitments to do.
Yep.
Thank you, Debbie. I have one more report I'd like to make just before we begin, and that's ARPA. Through the month of August, as you remember, we completed phase 1 where we identified the structure and our themes and buckets. The next part of our phase is actually confirming how we're going to move forward with that structure, what the structure will be. The month of August will entail preparing for that phase, and so it could entail developing dollar thresholds and actually identifying the actual theme that was discussed in the past, or themes or buckets. And so we'll determine kind of where we're going to be with that and present probably the first 1 or 2 weeks of September, depending on the council interviews that take place on the 6th of September. If those go a little long, if we get a lot of candidates for those, then we might push it off to the next week, but that all depends. And that's all my reports, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That brings us to the second opportunity for audience communication. Would either of the members of the public on the call like to speak to the council before we adjourn? Is it? I see him. Will, was your hand up? Oh. Ooh. Not sure what you're looking at.
There are no hands up.
There's no hands up. I think. Okay, with no one wanting to address the council, if there's no objection, we will adjourn the meeting and reconvene again on September 6th. Have a good August.
Have a great summer, everyone.
Have a good summer.